Ladies and gentlemen, deep in the rugged mountains of Balochistan, the standoff between Pakistani security forces and Baloch rebels continues as we speak. It's been about 40 hours since the rebels belonging to the Baloch Liberation Army hijacked the Jafar Express that was carrying some 400 to 500 people on board. At least 100 of them were security personnel. The picture on your screens is when the train was hijacked. It has been released by the BLA, that's the Baloch Liberation Army. Now, the exact situation on the ground is clouded by a war of narratives and the fact that the hijack location has no internet or journalist presence. But we are picking up that special forces are on the ground, combat helicopters are in the air, and suicide bombers who are holding hostages, mostly army personnel, have complicated the situation. The Pakistani establishment that has called the hijackers beasts claims that at least 30 of them have been killed. They also claim that 190 people have been rescued and that military operations are drawing to a close. But adding to this ominous atmosphere are some 200 empty coffins that have now arrived at the Quetta railway station. There they are. Those are the pictures that are now going viral. Listen in to some of those who have been rescued so far.
हमने सारे पंजाबियों को उठा करके ना आप एक बम चला दो हमारे ऊपर, ये तो उस मारने से अच्छा हमें सबको बोलो पंजाबी इकट्ठे हो जाओ, हम सारे इकट्ठे होकर एक बम है तो बम चला दो ताकि हमारी जान छूटे इधर से। ये सरफराज मुफ्ती किधर लाओ उसको मेरे पास, वो मोहसिन नकवी कहाँ है? एसएचओ की मार वाला, एक एसएचओ की मार है, वो किधर एसएचओ की मार, हजारों लोगों को मार दिया उसने।
हम तो फिल्मों ड्रामों में ये चीज़ें देखते थे तब खौफ खाते थे, आज वो हकीकत हम पर गुजर रही है। अल्लाह करे जो हमारे हुकाम है उन पर भी ये क़यामत गुजरे, उनको पता चले कि क्या क़यामत से इस वक्त हम लोग गुजर रहे हैं, क्योंकि उनको तो प्रोटोकॉल मिलता है एक चौक से दूसरे चौक तक जाने के लिए, और हम कोई गए गुजरे लोग नहीं है, टैक्स पे करते हैं, हम यहाँ के शहरी हैं, यहाँ के रिहायशी हैं। इन्होंने तो वो मालूमात दी हैं जो इससे ज़्यादा मालूमात आपकी सोशल मीडिया पर है, इससे ज़्यादा मालूमात आपकी टीवी पर है। आप फेसबुक तो खोल कर देखें, आप नेट तो खोल कर देखें, आपको इससे ज़्यादा पता चलेगा।
सरेआम मार रहे हैं जैसे पता नहीं इंसान की कीमत ही नहीं है। ऐसे क्या पूरा मैगजीन एक बंदे पे खाली कर तकरीबन होएगी 70-80 तो होएंगे। ट्रेन के अंदर भी जो बिठाए थे वो तो अंदर ही मार रहे थे।
As the tense wait continues for people whose loved ones are still on that train, the BLA has claimed that 30 security personnel have been killed by them. They have also issued a fresh statement threatening to execute security personnel in the next 24 hours if the Sharif government does not agree to release Baloch activists and political prisoners. Ladies and gentlemen, the Baloch insurgency has been ongoing for the last 25 years, and the Jafar Express has been attacked before. But what we are seeing playing out is perhaps the biggest escalation in an insurgency which is seeded in the exploitation of Balochistan's natural resources by the Punjabis of Pakistan. Balochistan makes up for 44% of Pakistan in terms of land. It has the largest amount of natural resources, minerals and oils. But it houses just 6% of Pakistan's population. Ironically, it is also the most underdeveloped region of Pakistan, where citizens have been beaten up, abducted, killed, mutilated with impunity by Pakistani security forces. China's interference via the CPEC has added to the angst and anger. That Pakistan's Baloch policy is a complete train wreck is clearly visible with this hijack standoff. This is how dismissive Pakistan's Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi was when Baloch insurgents, in a coordinated attack on police stations and government infra, had killed some 76 people 6 months ago. Listen in to what he had said then.
जो दहशतगर्दों ने हमला किया बिल्कुल किया है, छुप के किया ना, सामने आते मुकाबला करते, इंट्रीग करके किया है, कोई मसला नहीं है। मैं आपको ये भी बता दूं, अभी हम ये बात कर रहे थे ऑपरेशन की, किसी ऑपरेशन की कोई जरूरत नहीं है। ये एक एसएचओ की मार है और आप देखेंगे ये एक एसएचओ की मार रहेंगे इंशाल्लाह ताला। इनके लिए कोई लंबी चौड़ी हमें साइंस करने की जरूरत नहीं है। ये दहशतगर्द हैं और दहशतगर्दों का मुकाबला करना हमारी सिविल आर्म फोर्सेज भी जानती हैं, हमारी आर्म फोर्सेज भी जानती है, हमारी पुलिस भी जानती है, और इनका बंदोबस्त होगा।
I just want to make it very clear, since there was no date clear on that clip, that this clip of Mohsin Naqvi was from 6 months ago. Mohsin Naqvi, just by the way, is also the Pakistan Cricket Board chief, and he's being majorly trolled for that statement. Is Pakistan's botch-up of Balochistan now complete? Are we staring at a situation where rebels will follow through on their threat of a mass execution? Before I put that question to my guest this evening, let me quickly go across to a piece of breaking news that is coming in. We have another press release from the Baloch Liberation Army. This is the Baloch group, the rebel group that has orchestrated this hijack, now saying that they have killed 50 more military personnel they were holding as hostages. So far, BLA is claiming, and this has happened in the last 1 hour, BLA is claiming that they have so far eliminated 100 personnel, which means they have killed 150. Now they are saying if the Pakistan government doesn't agree to their terms of releasing Baloch political prisoners and activists, the remaining 150 hostages in their captivity will be executed. That is what is coming in. We also have a statement from the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif. He's not saying much, just saying that he offers his heartfelt condolences to the families of the martyrs. How many martyrs, we still do not know. Let me go across to Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, who is joining us on the broadcast. We have other guests joining us as well, but before that, Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, I'm going to come to you. There's a fog of war underway. We do not, at this point of time, there is a battle of narratives. We don't know who to believe, who not to believe at this point of time, what the exact numbers are. But the threat that is coming in from the Baloch Liberation Army seems to be very real. Look, the fact is they have nothing to lose. They've come here to this battleground to die. Does Pakistan have a choice? Because 150 people, supposedly security personnel, are still being held hostage, and the threat is that they will be executed within the next 20 hours.
Shreya, I really cannot respond because there has been a voiceover which has been coming in between your question. I can only make a guess as to what your question was, and therefore I will just bring in my intervention to give you an idea of the whole situation, the way I look at it. Firstly, let me say, I was expecting that something spectacular would happen in the terror world in and around this time, because focus had moved away from all the terrorist-prone areas and there was nothing spectacular happening anywhere. And I am reminded about October the 7th, 2023, as a spectacular act which the Hamas had done, which brought in the entire concern of the world against terrorism as such. I think terrorists at large take a lot of lessons from this. There is a thing called copycat terrorism, and that's exactly what has happened here. I would not even want to classify whether the BLA is terrorist, insurgent, or militant, because that's a separate debate among different people. But I would say that the BLA has done this primarily to create, as you very correctly assessed, a separate and a special narrative. That the focus of the world needs to come back to Balochistan exactly the way the Hamas had sought it on October the 7th in Gaza. Hamas overplayed it. The Israelis went after them with a vengeance, destroyed Gaza, 50,000 Palestinians were killed. I think this is something which is playing out here too. We have seen the better part of a Baloch insurgency and militancy, not for the 25 years, we've seen it for the last 75 years. The main thing is after Akbar Shah's assassination in 2006, it took a different turn. But before that, we've had about 4 or 5 episodes of this insurgency which has taken place in Balochistan. It has not gone anywhere. It's not ended in anything certain. What the BLA is essentially looking for is creating a high-profile act to get attention, change narratives, tell the world and tell Pakistan that they have the capability to take this far beyond. But it's my assessment at the moment that the manner in which breaking news is coming of 50 people being killed, etc., hostages being killed, I think clearly the BLA has overplayed his hand. And the Pakistan Army or the Pakistan security forces will have to go in If they are worth anything, they're worth their salt, they will have to go in. Because so far it was a question of negotiation or assault. I think that stage is gone. It has to be assault and nothing else.
Their reputation is on the line. Pathikrit Payne is joining us on the broadcast as well. Faraz Saeed is a Pakistani journalist with us, and Abdul Samad Yaqoob, you're a political analyst. You're joining us from Pakistan. Can I just come to you, Faraz Saeed, and quickly try and understand from you if you're hearing anything about what the situation on the ground is? I've just seen the statement of your Prime Minister. He doesn't seem to be saying much. There were some sources in Pakistan that were telling us that possibly the counter operations are coming to an end, but now there is this threat of more people being executed. What are you hearing at this point of time?
So as per the latest sources, the security sources, they've revealed that about 190 passengers have been released, and about 30 to 37 terrorists have been neutralized. However, the operation is still ensuing because, again, there were about 400 to 450 passengers who were on board the train, and still the terrorists are, have the hostages under them, because, again, what they did was they first neutralized the train, they attacked the train, and then they took those people into 3 different areas, scattered areas, which is making this operation even more treacherous. And you also need to understand that this Bolan Express and the tunnel in which this entire incident unraveled, it is a very treacherous terrain. And even for the military force to mobilize and move into that area, and specifically when the children and women are being used as shield, and when suicide bombers are placed within them. So it's very difficult for these forces to launch a grand operation to neutralize terrorists. So, the developments are still out there. There is no absolute clear information because there hasn't been any official source or official news that can be confirmed. There are still disputed sources from which we're getting news so far. But so 190 people have been released, 30 to 35 terrorists neutralized. Still, there are about 200 people that are unaccounted for.
That is worrying because I believe there are suicide bombers in the mix. That in places where hostages have been kept, there are suicide bombers as well. At least this is the news I read. Farzan Saeed, do you have a fix on whether the Pakistan government is at all considering the demand of the BLA to have Baloch activists released in exchange for releasing these hostages? Are you hearing anything on that account?
In principle, there is an absolutely clear stance of the government of Pakistan and the security forces. We are not going to negotiate with terrorists because they've held up arms against the state. They've held hostages. They've held Pakistani citizens as hostages. And now they want to, demand exchange of prisoners. And they're claiming that these held hostages are somehow prisoners of war. And they're going to negotiate with the terrorists at all. That is a clear stance. These terrorists will be neutralized, and then at a later stage, the situation may turn into going to negotiate with the people who think that they are disenfranchised, people who think that they are not getting the rights that they deserve. But right now, BLA terrorists will be neutralized, and the government of Pakistan is not going to negotiate with them.
Okay, so the government of Pakistan's stance is clear, and I think then the prediction that General Hasnain was making was absolutely accurate, that this is no time for, this is no time for negotiation for the Pakistani government and the army. Their reputation more than anything else is at stake. But can I just get you in here, Abdul Samad Yaqoob? As a political analyst, I want to ask you whether what is happening in Balochistan as we speak, the hostage situation, the hijack situation, this was waiting to happen. I mean, just look at what happened 6 months ago. There is a coordinated attack done by Baloch rebels. There are some 76 people who are killed. And what is the response of the Interior Minister of Pakistan, who just also happens to be the PCB chief? Ki these Balochs, inko to hum SHO level pe niptaan denge.
Exactly.
अब देखिए वो
Exactly, this is
एसएचओ
what
लोगों
I
को
was going to
एसएचओ
say.
लोगों को जो आप निपटाने की बात कर रहे थे, क्या हो गया?
देखिए ये exactly this is what I was going to say, that the approach of the government, I mean the approach of the government is कि ये कैसे चौकी मार है, यदि कि एक मामूली सा चोर या एक थोड़ा छोटा मोटा डाकू तो कैसे चौकी मार होता है, but they are still, I mean they don't have any clear standing, they don't have any clear stance. This incident is a huge, massive intelligence failure. We don't have any neutral source from which we get the news. I mean, all news coming from either from the security sources or the other side from the Baloch insurgents. So both have claiming their success. I mean, at this moment, the security sources claim that this operation is almost concluded and they have released the hostages, which is, I mean, which at least at this moment I cannot trust on that security sources of that security forces, because they told us, they conveyed us that they are capable of fighting with these Baloch insurgents, but so far their claim is totally false. I mean, what we have been witness is totally the opposite side of the picture. It's clearly, it's a huge failure of, and I agree with the General Atta that they have successfully, DLA has successfully translated it into and raised this issue in front of the international community. This recent incident has gained the huge attraction and a huge coverage from all over across the border and all over the world.
Okay. But Yaqoob Saab, all that is very well, but the fact is, Pathikrit, just come in here. Yaqoob Saab is telling me that this is a huge intelligence failure. Of course, it's an intelligence failure. But more than anything else, this is, you know, Pakistan's Baloch policy is a complete train wreck. What has happened today and what is happening today in Balochistan is proof of that. ये intelligence failure नहीं है. ये हर तरफ से Baloch policy जो पाकिस्तान की है उसका failure है.
So Shreya,
Pathikrit.
Shreya, the wheels of time has taken a full circle. From 1999 Kandahar hijack, which was facilitated by the deep state of Pakistan, to the hijacking of a train in Balochistan. It's a full circle. So let me tell you, there are three things. Number one, use of terrorism as an instrument of statecraft by Pakistan. Secondly, what has happened, the inflection point was 2018, when Trump administration stopped funding to Pakistan for war against terror, most of which they used to actually use for endless persecution of the Balochis. And from 2018 onwards, the Pakistani army's fund to actually fight conflicts came down. At the same time, Baloch came in collaboration with Tehrik-e-Taliban. So you see a lot of these tactics that Baloch elements are using now are typically TTP tactics. Number three, and it's a very important point, ultimately every problem has to have a political solution. The problem of people of Balochistan is just the Punjabis of Pakistan. They believe they have been shortchanged, they have been betrayed, their aspirations have never been taken care of, and forget everything else, their land has been sold off to China without even considering any consultation with them. In India also, we have faced insurgencies, but everything had a political solution. The problem with Pakistan is Pakistan always thought that we rule this country. Why should I, negotiate? That's what you showed in that you look at the attitude of that minister when he was saying that thing. That is the attitudinal problem. So that is the problem. The sectarian issue, the ethnic issue, the regional issue, those things Pakistan never addressed. And that is the core of the problem. In Baloch regiment of Pakistan army, you don't even have 2% Balochis. That is the level of disdain they have for people of Balochistan. Nawab Bukti's killing was the biggest betrayal that they felt. So when you use terrorism as an instrument of statecraft, you cannot then say that I'm a victim of terrorism. Pakistan must decide where they want to go, and whether they want a political solution or not. Shreya, last point, Pakistan is imploding. They do not simply have the fund to fight the war anymore because the taps have been closed. That is the reality.
Okay. General Hasnain, I'm going to give you the last word. In your professional assessment, I have exactly 20 seconds, but in your professional assessment, how do you see the current operation in Balochistan end? there are 200 coffins that have already arrived at the Quetta railway station. So that tells you something. But how do you see this end, given the terrain and given the fact that this is Pakistan and Pakistani army's reputation in line now?
Shreya, frankly saying, to my way of thinking, this is going to be a disastrous operation the way it is going to end. Because the Pakistan army is known not to be very rational in its thinking. We have seen now with our own eyes the examples of the past with India. What about Kargil and things like that? Here too, is their reputation at stake. The Punjabi domination which is there at stake completely, very correctly assessed just now by your speaker. And I think if there are going to be Pakistani casualties, or if there are going to be army casualties which are proven, because this is a disinformation game which is going on at the moment. No one can believe any of the news which are going around at the moment. I don't believe half the things which you have spoken or others have spoken on this channel. We will only come to know it, the reality of it, maybe a day or two later. But if there is truth in this matter that a lot of Pakistani soldiers have been killed, etc., I think the Pakistani army has no other option but to go in for its own reputation. And that is going to lead to a bloodbath. Okay. And this will be a landmark event in the history of Balochistan and probably independent Balochistan of the future.
I'm afraid my sense is that the bloodbath has already happened and there's possibly more to come. But you're right, this is fog of war. Don't believe either side. We really do not know what is happening, at least clearly. General Hasnan, we leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much. Pathikrit, good to have you on the show. Farzan Saeed, thank you very much. Good to have you. And Yaqoob Saab, thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast as well. This is a story we continue to track very closely here on Mirror Now. For the moment, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap from me. Shreya Dhoundial is joining you up next with all the day's top stories. Do stay with us.